Let's start off with the latest from the Utah Jazz and the NBA Draft Lottery. You know, the Jazz won just 5 of its last 30 games this past season, an attempt to position themselves ahead of both the Hawks and the Nets for the 8th best draft odds. So when the ping pong balls dropped and the picks were announced, it was a shock to see where the Jazz wound up.
Pick number 10 will be made by the Utah Jazz.
Wow, Jazz at number 10? That meant they fell 2 spots in the draft lottery. The Atlanta Hawks had just a 3% chance of winning the lottery, and yet they did, getting the number 1 pick. The Houston Rockets, who owned the rights to the Nets pick with the 9th best odds, jumped 6 spots to the number 3 pick. The Pistons had the worst record this year, and for the 2nd straight year, they fell to 5th.
Obviously not happy about it. Would rather stay at 8 or move up, but we're still, we've been studying the draft already for the 8th pick, and there's still a lot of players there that we like, and I think we'll still get a good player at 10, so not too worried about it.
Okay, we'll find out in late June. So the picks, they're set. The Jazz first pick, of course, will be that 10th pick, just behind Memphis and 1 ahead of Chicago. Then the Jazz come back on the board with 2 picks relatively close to each other. The Jazz will pick at number 29. A pick from the Thunder to wrap up the first round. Then 3 picks later at number 32 in the 2nd round, which this year is actually the following day. That pick is a pick the Jazz got from the Wizards. You know, it's not often that the Jazz have a draft pick in the top 10. That goes hand in hand with 20 straight playoff appearances and bursts of success since then. But they did have the number 9 pick last year, which they took Taylor Hendricks. You might remember some of the more memorable top 10 picks in the lottery era for the Jazz. How about in 2005, when the Jazz took Deron Williams with the number 3 pick? D. Will was great, played 6 seasons in Utah, averaging 17.3 points and 9.1 assists. Then in 2010, the Jazz had the 9th pick again, in which they selected future All-Star Gordon Hayward. Hayward played the first 7 years of his career in Utah. He went to the All-Star game in 2017. That season, he averaged 21.9 points per game for the Jazz. The following year, the Jazz were once again back in the top 10. The 3rd overall pick that year, the Jazz took center Enes Kanter. 8 picks ahead of Klay Thompson, 12 picks ahead of Kawhi Leonard. I know, it's hard to predict, but still, Kanter only played 3.5 seasons in Utah. And then in 2014, the Jazz had the 5th overall pick. With that, they took guard Dante Exum. Now, Exum, he was plagued with injuries during his time with the Jazz. It never really panned out. 5 years later, the Jazz traded him and 2 second-round picks to the Cleveland Cavaliers. What did they get? Jordan Clarkson, the NBA 6th Man of the Year.